Support for Donnybrook is provided in part by Design Air Heating and Cooling.
Seems fair to me.
Well, if you don't know what fair is, you can't make it. Sounds like any reason.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.
Good evening. I'm Percy Green. I want to welcome you to a very soulful edition of Donnybrook. I first want to thank those at 9PBS for the screening of Percy Green, Man of Action, last Saturday at Kena Plaza. You can catch this very excellent documentary at 8 p.m. Friday, October the 31st. Joining me tonight on Donnybrook is Wendy Wiese, resident soul sister and veteran journalist.
Don't forget Hottie.
Hottie. Also, St. Louis Post-Dispatch columnist, Bill, Mr. Kitty McClellan. Joe, Hitman Holleman of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. And Sarah Fenske from the 314 podcast, St. Louis Magazine, and Patty Hearst look-alike. Welcome all. Now, welcome. It's Alvin, if you didn't know. Thank you for watching this evening. And that documentary on Percy Green is actually excellent. Please check it out tomorrow, 8 o'clock on Halloween night. So, you know, once all the trick-or-treating is over, or you could DVR it. And so, wrong glasses. I'm like Sanford and Sons, technically.
I mean, you're a brilliant journalist, but there were some Academy Awards lost.
All right, well, back to reality, and that is that we were hit by a tornado on May 16th of this year, and man, there is still a lot going on, and people apparently don't have enough places to live. The city is trying to take action. They had allotted a lot of Rams money to tornado relief, but not very much of it has actually gone out yet. So, Bill, is this like kind of a St. Louis thing when it comes to our tornado relief, and the money's not going here and not going there and not going fast enough?
Well, I don't know. I know there's a lot of red tape in any city, but this is one of those instances where the mayor has to just cut through all the red tape and get money out to people. And it's good to see that they're already planning for something, a winter shelter. I mean, I don't know how realistic these plans are about a shelter for 1,000 people, but, you know, it's almost November, and we could have a storm and cold weather anytime once you get into November. And if there are people who are living in ramshackle houses that were damaged by the tornado or homeless and there are, of course, some of those people, they need a place to be when the weather turns cold.
I was struck in the Post-Dispatch story, which did a great job covering this, but the numbers were just kind of all over the place in terms of how many people may have been displaced by the tornado, who may be in need of some emergency shelter because they're maybe currently camped out in a house that's uninhabitable. And it seems kind of crazy with all the energy we've put into this that we don't have a closer estimate of how many people we're talking about. It's like, are we going to have, 5,000 people, they suggested at one point, that might need shelter because of this? Are we talking more about a few hundred? My guess is that it's probably more around the lines of a few hundred that are directly tornado related. But I can say, if you talk to homeless providers in the city, the number of homeless people in the city unrelated to the tornado has also jumped. And I think Mayor Spencer's very aware of the fact. She was very critical of how Tashara Jones handled homeless services. She does not want to be caught off guard. She does not want anyone outside freezing when the city doesn't have shelter to offer.
And there's a lot of people couch surfing, I'm sure.
From the tornado,
Yeah, right.
Well, and then moving back into those unstable residences. So, yes, it was very difficult to distinguish between structures, number of households, in terms of the numbers. But if we could pinpoint a number, that would make a huge help.
I think without the
a better inventory, it's hard to really come down and say how great is the need. Not arguing that there's not a need for it, but how great is that need? I think you have to differentiate between people who were homeless before the tornado, people who are homeless because of the tornado, and then the part about homes that were damaged. Well, are they still inhabitable but damaged? I mean, I just needed a little more detail, and the city needs to provide that before I'm saying let's rush the money out, if you would, because, that's one of those double-edged swords. They say you're spending it too slow and you're dragging your feet. You spend it too fast and you end up with a COVID-type situation where people squandered tens of millions of dollars. So somewhere in there, I just think we need to get a little more harder focus on exactly who was made homeless by the tornado.
And time is of the essence because we know how cold it can get in the 1st of November. And Larry Rice, who spoke to this, who was quoted in the article as saying, does anybody want to sleep in a structure with 500 other people?
Yeah.
And so these monster structures that they're talking about that are going to house 1,000 people, where? So, the details are
Well, we're sort of like the Dome, remember?
Yeah.
The Superdome after Katrina.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody wants to go sleep in our dome.
Well, okay. Let's say there was no tornado, and the idea of creating a facility that would be open and have some services for all the homeless people in the city of St. Louis and vicinity. It sounds like it'd be big enough to house some coming from the county as well. Isn't that a good idea?
No, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think this has been terrible to see in the last few years. I think they have been rightly focused on, we want to transition people out of shelters and get them into permanent supportive housing. Great, I'm 100% on board for that. But until we have enough beds for everybody who wants to do that, and we have a population that's ready to do that, we absolutely need more emergency shelter capacity. So I thought it was really good to see the mayor proactively acknowledge that and say we're going to put a lot of money into it. Now they're going to have to spend fast to get it up and running.
Well, okay, if you build it for tornado homeless,
right,
it would be there for pre-tornado homeless.
That's what
correct?
they're talking about.
And that's the plan.
That's the plan.
Okay, all right. It just seems like, why didn't somebody come up with this plan a long time ago? Why?
Necessity
I guess
is
the
mother of invention.
And I guess
this
the
would
money.
This would be like what we've seen, time and time again in the Olympics. They build these monstrous structures, and then they have many of them have a very efficient afterlife. So after the actual games. So.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, does a week go by when there's not sheriff news? Not for a while. So the sheriff is, I guess, technically the sheriff, but he has no duties because a local judge, circuit court judge, ruled that he can't do his job from a jail cell. He differs, but I would think that would be pretty tough to do. So former police chief John Hayden is now the acting sheriff, interim sheriff. Where are we going with this one, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, this seems like the most common sense thing ever. The Attorney General's office was in court yesterday. I think this is maybe the 3rd time that they have gone to the judge and said, hey, you need to get this guy out of here. We have this removal petition. He's facing criminal charges, guys. We can't have him be the acting sheriff. And this time, I think the judge took it very seriously. And I have to give the judge credit. He's saying, okay, you can't just remove an elected official. He needs to have some due process here. So he's saying this is just in an interim capacity. This is while he's locked up in jail. He can't be the sheriff of the city of St. Louis. I'm glad we now have some standards.
Don't you love the fact that his attorney, David Mason, said it's like he's in Vienna? I mean, of all the places that, Alfred Montgomery might go to, or I might go to.
Yeah.
Vienna, where do you get that?
I'm thinking Panama City.
And does Vienna want that out? That it's sort of like spending time in jail in St. Louis?
Right.
Going to Vienna? I mean, and I got a question where, Judge Mason, no, you're not on vacation. You're in jail. Your client is in jail, and he can't actually go to the place where he's supposed to work. How can you possibly make an argument that it's no big deal? We can just phone it in.
Well, that was Mason's argument is, people will go on like a 2-week vacation or people work from home. They're saying, we're running up and down to the jail cell every day to get them to sign off on stuff. I think they've been working overtime to make this work, even with their leaders.
That's why they needed the golf carts. Back when they got the golf carts, why do you need that?
And the new ID badge.
And who's getting the kids to school? I just want to know who's getting the sheriff's kids to school.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Right now, if the sheriff had not the burner phone and all that mess, and he actually did have house arrest, I wonder if they would be stripped him of his sheriff duties if he was working from home.
The judge made very clear if he was able to work from home, he would still be allowed to be sheriff. This is just about him being behind bars.
And this is not.
This is because of the witness tampering.
Right.
Yes, that was the straw that broke.
Right. That's what got him behind bars, which made this.
And let's again think that the idea that a person can run his office of a sheriff's department, a quasi police office, while you're in jail is not a good look either. So the judge was right. Let somebody fill in till this is all done.
Steve Ehlmann was the judge.
Right.
Yeah. Credit to Steve.
All right. Should the sheriff's office in the city of St. Louis exist? I know younger people come here and the first thing they say is like, there's a sheriff? Like, what does the sheriff do? Because you have that image of the sheriff.
Andy Taylor.
Right. And you have to explain it's a state office and blah, blah, blah. Should it exist? I mean, I
really think they should fold it under corrections. I think it makes so much sense to just have somebody who's like hired like anybody else is hired. And this is not an elected position. They don't get their own budget. It's just like getting people in and out of jail cells and to court. Why can't that be part of what detention does?
County has a sheriff.
Yeah, I think that
they're not elected,
but
they're just in charge of. So when
the jail, right?
Right. So, but when you say, we need someone to do that job, a supervisor of these duties. We don't need to have an election. Save the money on an election. Yeah. There's a lot of these state offices that were required. Our county offices, they've been called both, license collector. You don't need elections for these. Prosecuting attorney, circuit attorney, yes, that's an important job. But these other ones could be appointed positions in a heartbeat, but they don't want to. There's no political patronage.
Yeah, I was going to say political patronage. If the sheriff's office has always been a safe haven that people can get, their brother-in-law into.
Right.
And without that, they send people to the airport. And I'd rather have them in the sheriff's office than at the airport. I mean, seriously, people are going to hire their relatives.
I'm okay.
They working in air traffic control.
Well, no, that's why keep them in the sheriff's office.
I'm okay with the sheriffs. I really am. And because I feel like if there's a way to mess it up, let's stick with the devil that we know. And in the structure that we know, what we need to do is break the cycle of Vernon Betts and then his protege / worst nightmare, Mr. Montgomery, Sheriff Montgomery. There have been normal situations in the sheriff's office before, and we just need to find the right person.
Hey, and just to be clear, Vernon Betts would certainly say that Alfred Montgomery's not his protege because he beat him.
That's why I said.
Right.
That's why I said his worst
he
nightmare.
He did hire him back in the day.
They are inextricably linked.
Yeah.
Those two. I'm sorry. I don't know that you'd have one without the other.
That is a good point. I did find it interesting that John Hayden slipped in there and I would be open to taking the job.
And you remember 2 weeks ago I said I would be the sheriff and do everything in my power to make sure that office no longer existed at the end of this term. I would stay with that promise.
But how much do you make? I'm going to say
it's good. It's good money for a couple of years.
It would take me 2 years to get
there. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying quit early.
And serving documents and securing courtrooms.
And John Hayden is, of course, extremely overqualified. I mean, a good man to have.
Yeah.
He was a math major at Washington University.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always impressed with anybody who's a math major.
I hope he gets comfortable.
Yeah.
Oh, he's going to have some fun at this.
He's not going to roll dice with anybody.
I think we could have majored in a lot of things and been the sheriff of St. Louis.
I hate to warn on something bad coming on the horizon, but if Alfred Montgomery is quit or removed from office, at that point there's this whole process where then we can't keep John Hayden. We'll have to go through this whole nomination. So it's not going to be smooth sailing from here, folks.
Okay. All right. Well, that's one job I don't want. All right. Well, speaking of city politics, Alderman Michael Browning opposed the sale of a park that was in the ward of one Rasheen Aldridge. And mysteriously, a Cortex bill that Alderman Browning wanted passed suddenly lost some votes. And he says it was petty politics and people just getting even with him. This whole story kind of made you chuckle. I know it is city politics, and that can be kind of grinding. But this one makes you smile, don't it, Joe?
Absolutely. I guess in all due respect to Alderman Browning, when he got up and said, this is petty politics, Duh. I mean, yes, of course. You voted against a bill in my ward, okay? And it used to be aldermanic courtesy. If that alderman in that ward said, let's move forward with this, all the other aldermen said, you know what? You're the one that's going to take the phone calls. You're the one that's going to take the complaints. I'm not going to get in the way. So Mr. Browning opposes it and votes against it. So then when Alderman Aldridge has a chance to turn the tide, turn the tables, he did so. And that's, I'm hoping Mr. Browning understands now how this works. Now, the funny part also, there were so many funny things in there. Was one that apparently became like as a revelation to Browning that this was, hey, this is petty politics. It's like, yes, it is.
Is there any other kind?
The other part, right. The other part was where, though I got a kick out of Rasheed Aldridge saying that he changed his vote on the Cortex plan because of something Sharon Tyus said, marking the first time that Rasheed Aldridge has ever paid any attention to what Sharon Tyus has said. But apparently now she's become the wise sage to Mr. Aldridge's service. So, at some point in time, will everything work out? It remains to be seen. But yes, it was a total petty political game, and I enjoyed every second of it.
It was good.
But there is a bigger issue here, and the bigger issue is that there's a lot of people who are rallying to try to save this. Sorry, Bill, it's hard to look at your cat face. This tragic little park by the old Post-Dispatch parking lot, because apparently under city charter, you can't sell off parkland without a vote of the people. And so people are saying, whoa there, if we do this for this tragic little park, what park will we do it next for? Are we going to sell off Tower Grove Park? They're saying put the brakes on.
Yeah, the other point about the new owners of the old Post-Dispatch building wanting that to be a parking lot because they need parking. There are two huge parking lots right there.
Yeah.
One just west of the building and one just north. So it's kind of a strange excuse.
The whole thing is a little shady.
Well,
and
and
so
I get-
that's going to derail this, this tax thing that we probably
The last line of the story was, it will be revisited. So,
Cortex coming around. I just got to wonder where. I just want to track all the campaign donations for and against to start coming in to Mr. Browning and Aldridge. And let's be fair here. We talk about a park. I worked next to that building like you do. That park. That's no park.
Yeah.
That was a place for homeless people to wait for St. Patrick's Center to open up and give out food. There were shootings and there was unrest. So I get the theoretical position of, well, it's like a park. Maybe we'll do Tower Grove. It wasn't like Tower Grove Park.
No,
it was a place for homeless people to hang out.
Right.
So,
On the other hand, I'm always for the neighbors when you're trying to put something new where they live. But if you buy a home by the homeless shelter, you shouldn't complain
were
about
here
homeless
first.
people.
Yeah.
And that park was a park for homeless people before Mr. McKelvey bought it.
There you go. I do find it interesting that, I'm always saying that, man, we have to get more cooperation between all parts of the city, and all parts of the city came together to jam Alderman Browning on this.
lesson learned.
The lesson learned.
can't wait for the next time Alderwoman Tyus and Alderman Aldridge are going at each other.
And,
I hope she has
Oldenburg,
Tom Oldenburg,
Oldenburg,
who took a walk.
Who took a, right,
A Zoom call.
I hear my
Yeah.
phone ring.
But it wasn't Machiavellian.
No,
It was not Machiavelli.
No, it was planned. It was
No
planned.
Machiavelli here.
And could you just say, like, it was nothing Machiavelli? Okay. Well, we're going to stay on politics. And this is, I interviewed Mike McClellan just a couple of days ago to talk about on November 1st, SNAP benefits are going to be coming to an end, not only here, but across the nation. And he called it just like it's going to be just a human crisis on November 1st because so many people will find themselves actually without enough food. And Democrats and Republicans are going back and forth at the U.S. Senate on this. Democrats are holding out, they say, to protect health care benefits in the future. And Bill, I do not want Democrats to go back on the word to protect health care and just ride this one out.
Well, I think that the political strategy is completely wrong on the part of the Democrats. I think that if the Republicans in their big, beautiful bill want to have health care premiums go up, that what the Democrats should have done is just say, okay, and we'll run against this in the midterms. The idea of shutting down the government, now the blame is being put on the Democrats, and I thought it was a crazy decision, and I think that they should just stop as soon as they can and say, we want to reopen the government, and we'll talk about health care premiums later.
I think, it's turned into a game of chicken. But the problem is it's the Democrats who swerved into the Republican lane and brought this game of chicken on. So no one wants to blink. What the Republicans are saying is, we have a budget bill. You want SNAP benefits? Vote. We can go through with this. We don't have to stop anything. You don't like the bill that got passed, so now you want to hold everything up. And I agree with Bill that this is not looking good for the Democrats. They keep trying to say, oh, the Republicans caused this problem. Nobody's believing that. Because by logic, the people holding up a budget going into effect are the Democratic senators. That's just fact, because they're voting against it. So this idea that they're going to pin this on the Republicans, I think was misguided, as Bill said. And I think it's going to not help their cause one way or another. The ACA, Obamacare, that was supposed to be, that's still on through November, which was an extension already from COVID, which the Republicans said we will renegotiate when the time comes. The Democrats decided this is our leverage. We couldn't beat it in the Senate. We couldn't beat it in the House. This is our, let's call it filibuster leverage, where 60 votes are needed to get this out. Here's our leverage, and it is. If you're willing to suspend SNAP benefits and all these other things for political leverage, that's what you've done. So enjoy.
Right.
It's kind of hard to say this is all on the Democrats when Republicans control everything. I mean, I get that, this is, as you say, maybe some tactical mistakes are made here.
It is on the Democrats.
What's stopping this from passing?
Trump is supposedly the greatest deal maker. He can't figure out how to get a deal to get this
and that's the interesting. That's the other part of this that is that feeling that makes everybody kind of uncomfortable, because we don't know what he's thinking.
Right.
And he doesn't have the same, tender pressure points that political people do. He's not that. He is such an outlier, and he has the will to just make it look as bad as it possibly can.
Well, honestly, that's going to happen
anyway.
That's going to happen anyway. That's why I say, look, forward with this. Just hang out as long as you can. Because what's missing from the Democratic Party, and the election tells it, there is a middle-class section of the Democratic Party, longtime Democrats, that's not down with kind of where the progressive part of the party is. And if Democrats want to say, listen, this time we think a sizable portion of our electorate base who for some reason is drifting Republican, we can hold them by saying we're going to protect your health care. We're going to protect that first, and we will then, the people on SNAP, they'll just have to figure it out. I know that's tough, but listen, these are tough times.
Well, but that's my point, Alvin. If you want to say we're going to use those SNAP benefits for political leverage, and sort of tying in the Trump thing, there's the old adage, if your enemy's making mistakes, don't stop them. And I think that's exactly what Trump and the Republicans are doing, because the Democrats are making a mistake.
Yeah, and
why would you stop them from that?
The Democratic, the people who are leaning toward Trump, who are usually Democrats, they're watching Fox News. I mean, they're not hearing that this is about keeping the health care premiums down. They're hearing this is about
No. I disagree totally, because that's what's really. How did you get in this mess in the first place, Democratic Party? We lost a section of people who thought the party was out of control and is looking for the have-nots more than the haves. I'm sorry, but we got to win those votes back.
And in the interim, though, for those of us, because we all agree this is a land of plenty and kids should never go to bed hungry, as Josh Hawley said in that New York Times piece, but get onto the Urban League website and look, as you pointed out in the American Story, look for all of the food drop-offs. You can make a donation online to help alleviate some of this pain.
Thank you very much for throwing that in there. All right, speaking of Republicans, friend of Donnybrook, Steve Ehlmann, has decided that he is going to run for county executive again. Now, it was Wesley Bell who told you that I'm not going to run for Congress.
And I've forgiven Wesley
Right, I
Bell.
forgive him too. But I think Steve made it clear he was done. I'm not running again. There's lots of reasons, I think, for the betterment of St. Charles that Steve, said he's going to re-enter, or not re-enter, but just go for it again. And my guess is it's kind of, he doesn't want it to fall into the hands of the wrong candidate. So, I mean, like I said, I'm speaking for myself. I'm biased, but Wendy, you know.
Well, he'll be running against Bill Eigel and Jason Law, and Mike Ehlmann dropped out. I believe that was how that happened. But he wants to assure St. Charles County's future, and he thinks that he's the best person to do that, and he is unapologetically St. Charles County centric. He doesn't really, he lets the city, St. Louis City, deal with St. Louis City, St. Louis County deal with St. Louis County, but he wants to make the 55,000 jobs that he says that he brought into St. Charles County. He wants to continue that kind of momentum, and I think he's got the name recognition. I mean,
Well, the county has certainly thrived under him.
yes, that's
Yeah,
right.
the proof's in the pudding.
Yep.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, okay. We'll see. It should be a heck of an election. This is going to be a fun election. No, let me rephrase that. Fun is the wrong word. It's going to be something. Let's put it like there. Let's go to the letters. Criminalization of the county executive over a mailer is a new low for the county council in Missouri. Almost every informational flyer ever mailed has had a bias. Banning info flyers altogether is the only remedy. That from Tom Schneider, retired Florissant mayor. And we have a...
Kudos to the staff and to the Washington U team for standing up. Washington U has been a monument in St. Louis City since 1853. It is just as vocal as the arch. And it has no problems. It does not have to fall to adversity from anybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Dolores. I don't know if it was official at the time, but Washington University said they are not going to abide by the presidential pledge or whatever. All right, you can write to Donnybrook, care of 9 PBS, 3655 Olive Street, St. Louis, Missouri, 63108. Send us an email to donnybrook@9pbs.org. Hashtag Donnybrook STL for Twitter. Call the comment line, 314-512-9094. And you can find us at the podcast place of your choice. We're everywhere, including Last Call, which is coming up on YouTube. We're going to talk about golf carts, Milwaukee, and, of course, Halloween. Sarah's our guest tonight. Thank you, Sarah, for sitting in, as usual. And we will see you guys on Last Call shortly. Happy Halloween.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9 PBS.